Boss Rush 700 day 3. So we've actually got another great farm today. So if you have a little bit lower artillery strike, or if you just prefer the style of farm that we're going to have here for day 3, this is actually a viable alternative even to our already great day 1 farm. So we've got Apothecary Helbrim as the first boss, and he's a Baron's boss, so he's very easy. You've just got 2 red adds that come in with melee attacks, and they don't even attack every turn. Sometimes they just spam a taunt and do nothing. And then the Apothecary himself just uses the alternating Potion of Illusion and Potion of Madness, which are very easy to deal with. And then the follow-up bosses are 180 HP Captain Shivers, which is a blue, and then a bunch of greens that only go up to 250 HP. So the artillery strike requirements are much easier to meet on this day for some people. I've got a couple of different comps here. This first one is a Khadgar comp that's just maximizing artillery strikes with all 5 artillery strike mercenaries. And then we've got a couple of Geddon comps here. This one's a bit of a safer comp that uses Uther to tank the melee hits on turn 1, and then just buys you a bit of extra time without letting them hit your Genn and Geddon so much. And this one is a comp for the rich man, basically, where if you've got a very big Genn and Geddon and you can just tank a hit from one of the reds on turn 1, then you can use either Malchezaar or Hooktusk in this slot to turn the Apothecary red using this Flying Axes equipment, or a Cutthroat from Hooktusk. The advantage of Malchezaar over Hooktusk is that you don't even have to act with him. So you can just do your Inferno combo and hit in turn. Malchezaar will eat one of the melee hits, and then the other one smacks into your Genn or your Geddon. If you use Hooktusk, she has the advantage of being able to start as a green mercenary or a blue mercenary. So if for some reason they're not swinging into your Malchezaar, you could use her as sort of a pseudo taunt by making her green and making her a more attractive target for those red melee swings, but then you do have to perform the Cutthroat action, and that will also give you a bleed on the Apothecary, so there's a small advantage to using Hooktusk, but you do have to perform that extra action. So this could be a quicker farming comp if you've got a really big Geddon and Genn, where you can just tank that melee hit. To go over the Khadgar comp here, though, we've got Bitter Chill, Genn with Smooth Transformation instead of his heal equipment, and I'll get into why we're doing that. And we've got Even Shares instead of Round of Drinks on Edwin. I'm using Scout Spyglass on Rogers, but you could use others. I think the Scout Spyglass is good, though. I've got Dragon's Mark here. That one tends to be buggy, so maybe Dragon Rune Axe is better. And then I'm just got Briny Bracers on Eudora, but it doesn't really matter what you use on Eudora because you probably won't use Eudora in combat. So for this comp, you basically lock them down with blizzards, and then your Hearthfire granting additional attack based on the level of your blizzard is going to help ramp your Genn and Edwin so that they can kill the Apothecary more quickly for you, while the blizzard helps clean up the reds more quickly. And then the Even Shares is because Edwin doesn't really need his even speed assisted strike with this comp. So turn 1, we just Space Maker here because we want Genn to auto-transform. You can swing with Edwin on turn 1 if he can survive. So we got an attack anomaly here, so he's not going to be able to survive a double swing there, but he will survive a double swing into one of these reds. So I'm going to swing on a red instead due to the attack anomaly. Most of the time you'll get no attack anomaly on the blue though, and you'll be able to just swing freely on Apothecary. Okay, this turn we Hearthfire, and as you can see they're using a taunt now instead of swinging. So now we're just going to spam Moonlight Strike on the Apothecary, and we're going to use Assisted Strike, which will combo based on our faster actions here. So our Edwin doesn't take damage. Okay, and now we're just spamming Khadgar's stuff on the red, Moonlight Strike on the blue, and we're going to get a heal off these 1 HP guys, since we don't have Genn heal. The heal's not super important. We're just using that equipment because the other ones aren't really beneficial for this fight. So we're always just blizzarding, always just Moonlight Striking, and then we Assisted Strike when it's available. On this turn, if we did not have this attack anomaly, or if you have enough hit points, which I do in this case, then you'll Assassin's Blade the Apothecary on this turn. If you can't survive these hits, then you just Assisted Strike instead. and then we're just continuing to spam Moonlight Strike even though the Apothecary is dead, because now that we've transformed our Genn, our human form abilities have been downgraded due to the transformation bug. So you just want to keep spamming Moonlight Strike. It's going to do the most damage since he's getting his attack ramped anyway from all of these Hearthfires. And if you can survive the swing, the double swing, you can swing with Edwin. If you can't survive it, then you can just use his alternate assisted strike and his 4-speed. I've got a pretty strong Edwin, so I can usually just spam swing. Also, on the turns that they use their taunt instead of their attack, if you Assassin's Blade, he'll only swing once. So that can sometimes allow you to get another melee attack instead of needing the 4-speed. This time I will not survive the swing, so I'm just going to use my 4-speed. Alright, and that should do it. So I don't bother killing off my Khadgar. You could if you wanted to. Genn's pretty good at doing it since he deals his attack every turn. So if you wanted those higher artillery strike odds, it would be pretty easy to get them. But you can just leave Khadgar alive since you do have, you know, 5 artillery strike mercenaries and 1 non. That's just down to your preference. Or if you wanted to, like, do the math on what are the changes in your odds versus your runtime and how long does it take you to kill off your Khadgar, is it mathematically worth it to kill him off? I haven't bothered to do that, and it's going to vary with depending on the level of your blizzard and all that stuff too, since the attack granted by Hearthfire is based on the level of your blizzard skill, not your Hearthfire. Since the blizzard skill upgrades your Hearthfire, to give it the attack, it's actually based on your blizzard level. So another good farm day here. The next comp is going to be the safer Geddon comp, where we're using Uther as the opener. And aside from the Geddon comps, you could run even more stuff with this, because the first boss is very easy. So any way you can think of to do the damage as quickly as possible, or even use all realities from Malchezaar, and then get rid of anything that's not artillery strike if it doesn't take too much time. There's a lot of different ways to do these easy bosses. These are just some of the ones that seemed pretty obvious right after this released. So there could be other comps as well. So the next comp here is going to be the Uther Safe Geddon comp. So we're using Librum of Sacrifice on Uther, Ilnan Strength on Genn, Mark of Conflag on Geddon. I've got the Dragon Rune Axe because these other equipments are bugged and don't usually do anything. Normal Round of Drinks to make the assisted strike even speed. And I've got Scout Spyglass here. You could use other things on Rogers as well. And you can replace Rogers with Eudora in this slot if you need that additional green artillery strike to have better odds to get a crit against Captain Shivers. But he only has 180 HP, so if you've got 180 or more, I think Rogers is a little bit better for helping you clean up the reds in some circumstances. When Uther dies here, or in the other comp where you use either Malchezaar or Hooktusk, you have a choice if you want to bring out either Voone or Eudora, or either Voone or Rogers. The Voone works as a combo activator, so you can potentially summon with Genn and still get a fire combo on those turns. And the Rogers is just blue, so she can help kill the reds. So it just kind of depends what you prefer. And you could reposition that Uther in a different spot if it's better for your Potion of Madness. Just depends on who you want to pick. So here, like I was just saying, you can either use Voone or Rogers. So Rogers obviously crits these guys. And Voone can give you a combo activation while you're summoning with Genn here. If you do put out Voone, either put him to the left of Geddon or ensure that this Fire Breath goes off before the Inferno. And the only thing you need to worry about with your positioning is what the Potion of Madness is going to make you smack into yourself with. And you can swing with this or not. In my case, I can get some free damage here because my Genn heal's big enough, so I may as well swing there. And then with Voone, you can either just pass with him on these turns, or you can do a summon or an axe throw. They don't do that much damage, so if it doesn't make the difference, you could just pass with Voone if you want the less animations. Sometimes you can have that happen where you lose one of your artillery strikes. It's not a big deal, though. And if you had a bigger Geddon, you could just kill these. If you had a lower health anomaly, they would have already been dead. As you can see, they have 1,300 health here. So this is a very high red health anomaly. But it's not a big deal. It just reduces our artillery strike odds a bit. And here you can speed things up. So like if you wanted to, you could do like a 2-speed blistering bullet and speed up your Inferno, but we don't need to. My Geddon's not quite big enough to make this like the super efficient farm, because I shouldn't have even had to do this turn if I had a lot bigger Geddon. Some people are already up in the 400 to 500 damage Geddon range. I have chosen to not invest that much in my Geddon, though. As with any Geddon farm, bigger Geddon equals better farm. But he doesn't have the best damage scaling. It's very expensive to keep your Geddon up with some of these farm options. And you don't really recoup that investment. So unless you just really enjoy the Geddon playstyle, there has always been... I can't think of a single instance where there has not been an alternative to the Geddon farm that's in the same ballpark at minimum. So that's why I've chosen to not invest the additional like 50,000 renown to keep my Geddon up with these higher damage values. Because I don't really enjoy the Geddon playstyle. We used it so much on normal bounties and heroic bounties before Mythic Boss Rush came out. I'm just over it. And if we've got an alternative that's perfectly viable, I'm just going to do that instead. But he is certainly an option if you have invested in him and you enjoy using him. That's why I'm featuring it here. But especially if you haven't already made a significant investment into Geddon, it's likely that it's going to be more cost efficient for you to have stronger teams if you invest in Varden as your damage mercenary, like your pure damage mercenary. Since Varden's scaling per renown investment is much better, it just requires a little more setup, so it's not as good for some of these like very quick farming runs where you're killing things before you would even have time to ramp. And that's where Geddon kind of shines a bit more. So this third comp here, you can either use Hooktusk or Malchezaar in this slot. Malchezaar is so you can perform one fewer action. Hooktusk is so that you can either put a bleed on the enemies, or you will put a bleed on the Helbrim when you change him to red, and you can either start Hooktusk as green or blue. Making her green, if you're having trouble with them swinging into your Genn or Geddon, might make Hooktusk a more attractive target to ensure they swing at her turn 1. But the equipment here is Gilnean Strength, Mark of Conflag, Flying Axes on Malchezaar, and then on Hooktusk, you could either use the equipment that makes her start as green, or like Prop Knife would probably be the alternative, but Hooktusk is just going to die on turn 1, so it doesn't really matter what you choose there. These equipments are bugged, so I tend to use the Dragon Rune Axe, but Dragon's Mark is the logical choice if it actually worked. Round of Drinks on Edwin, and then again here you could use Eudora in this slot if you need the green artillery strike. If you don't, then any of these on Rogers could be good. I've got the Scout Spyglass here, so let me hop into it here. So with this comp, the attack anomaly is relevant. You need your Geddon and your Genn to both be able to survive a swing from these reds. So we got a low attack anomaly here, so that's good for me since I don't have really fat Baron Geddon. I do have a very fat Genn, but the Geddon needs to be able to survive a hit as well, because they're likely going to swing one of the guys into your Malchezaar and the other one into your Geddon, unless they have a very low attack like this, where they may both swing into the Malchezaar here. I guess you just shoot at whatever the highest hit points is, and you can swing with Malchezaar if you want, or you can not. But usually you want to make sure he survives here so that these attacks, at least one of them hits into the Malchezaar. And you could reorder these so that that Potion of Madness goes into your Genn instead of your Geddon. But then you have to, you know, reorder your actions. So you could put the Malchezaar over here, but then you'd have to click past him every run. And then again here, you can either choose to put out Voone so that you fire combo with the Voone while you summon a summon with Genn, or you can bring out the Rogers. Either option is fine. I'm just going to put out Rogers here. If you have enough damage with Geddon, and you should if you're going to run this comp, you should have enough damage to kill these guys like turn 2. So it's probably best to just always put Rogers out here for more damage, but it just depends on your stats if you can get away with it. Rogers is going to do more damage, AoE. And really, if you're running this comp, you should be able to kill them on turn 2. So these are going to act before them anyways here, so it doesn't really matter what we do. These guys. So I had to take an extra turn there because my investment in Geddon is lower. But this comp, if you've got a really... This is the comp for really big Geddons. And realistically, if you're running this, you should probably be able to kill them on turn 2 instead of needing that additional turn. So the advantage of this comp is it's like a pretty consistent 2-turn clear unless the health anomaly is very high. And then 3 turns is still perfectly fine. Also, if you lose your Geddon, as long as you've gotten off like 1 Inferno, if your Genn and Rogers are strong enough, you can probably clean them up without Geddon, and then you'll have a 100% chance to hit 2 Artillery Strike Mercenaries afterwards. I've done that on one of the runs since my Geddon's not super strong. I got that first Inferno off on turn 1, my Geddon died on turn 1, and then I was still able to finish the run, and it was pretty fast. Like, it wasn't as fast as just Infernoing them twice, but it wasn't too slow that I was like, oh, this is a bad farm. So that's another thing to consider. If your Geddon is not quite strong enough to always survive, it could still be a good farm. And the same goes for the Geddon Uther comp. And there may be some other variants of these comps. These are just the ones that kind of immediately jumped out as good options. But anything that deals damage or all realities or something quickly enough against that first boss, and then ends with as high ratio of Artillery Strike Mercenaries as possible for your treasures, could be a good farm for this. So there may be a little bit more exploration with the party there. Figure out what an ideal comp is for your farm. So 6 turns, pretty good, and you can even go lower than that if you've got a bigger Geddon. So great farms this week. Just pick whichever one you enjoy the most and get those runs in, because you can make a lot of renown with these. Good luck.